The night was dark and stormy, a fitting atmosphere for the old, decrepit tavern that stood at the edge of town. The eternal spirit's sign swung creakily in the wind, casting an eerie glow on the deserted streets. Inside, the tavern was dimly lit, with a few flickering candles barely illuminating the worn wooden tables and faded paintings on the walls. As the clock struck midnight, a solitary figure entered the tavern. The door creaked ominously as it swung open, revealing a hooded figure cloaked in shadows. The stranger approached the bar, his face hidden beneath the hood. The bartender, an old man with tired eyes, looked up from polishing a glass and nodded at the newcomer. "Last call," the bartender grumbled, his voice carrying a hint of exhaustion. The hooded figure merely nodded and slid onto one of the stools. The bartender, sensing an air of unease, eyed the stranger cautiously. The hooded figure slowly raised his head, revealing piercing, crimson eyes that seemed to glow with an otherworldly light. "I'll have your finest whiskey," the stranger said in a voice that sent shivers down the bartender's spine. The bartender hesitated for a moment before reaching for a dusty bottle on the top shelf. The label read Soulfire Reserve. As he poured the dark liquid into a glass, the stranger spoke again, his words laden with a sinister undertone. "Tell me, bartender, do you ever wonder about the choices people make in life? The sins that stain their souls?" The bartender felt a chill in the air, and he glanced nervously around the empty tavern. The storm outside intensified, the wind howling like tortured souls. As he handed the glass to the hooded figure, the stranger grinned, revealing sharp, pointed teeth. "Tonight, you shall bear witness to the consequences of those choices," the stranger declared, raising the glass in a mock toast. The bartender watched in horror as the crimson-eyed stranger downed the whiskey in a single gulp. Suddenly, the lights in the tavern flickered and dimmed, casting the room into darkness. The air grew thick with a malevolent presence, and the temperature plummeted. In the dim light, the bartender saw the hooded figure transform before his eyes. The once human guise melted away, revealing a creature of pure darkness. Horns protruded from its head, and leathery wings unfolded, casting ominous shadows across the walls. "You've served your last customer, mortal," the devil hissed, his voice echoing through the empty tavern. The bartender stumbled backward, his heart racing with fear. The devil advanced slowly, his eyes glowing brighter as he spoke. "Your tavern, once a haven for the desperate and damned, now belongs to me. Your soul is my payment." As the devil reached out to claim the bartender's soul, the storm outside raged on, thunderous and malevolent. The eternal spirit's sign flickered one last time before extinguishing, leaving the town in darkness. The old tavern, once a place of solace for lost souls, had become a haven for something far more sinister. The devil now presided over the spirits, his laughter echoing through the desolate halls as the storm outside raged on, a symphony of darkness and despair. The once welcoming atmosphere of the tavern had transformed into an unsettling realm where shadows danced with malicious intent. The devil, satisfied with his claim, sauntered behind the bar, running his clawed fingers along the dusty bottles and tapping the empty glasses with an eerie rhythm. The bartender, now paralyzed with fear, watched as the devil began to reshape the very fabric of the tavern. The walls oozed a black, tar-like substance, and the air itself seemed to carry a haunting whisper, as if the spirits of the departed were now trapped within the cursed establishment. A spectral fog enveloped the room, and ghostly figures emerged from the shadows. These were the souls of those who had succumbed to their darkest desires and had met their end within the confines of the tavern. Their tormented wails echoed through the air, a chorus of eternal suffering. The devil reveled in the chaos he had unleashed, reveling in the anguish of the lost souls. He approached the bartender, his crimson eyes glowing with a malevolent glee. "You are now a part of this cursed domain," he declared, his voice resonating through the spectral symphony. The bartender, his soul now bound to the unholy pact, felt an indescribable weight settling upon him. The devil handed him a tattered ledger, its pages filled with names written in blood. "Your task is to serve the lost souls that wander through these cursed halls," the devil commanded, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. As the devil disappeared into the shadows, leaving the bartender alone with the tortured spirits, the once vibrant tavern had become a twisted purgatory. The bartender, now a spectral servant of the underworld, moved mechanically, pouring drinks for the forsaken souls who shuffled in and out of the shadows. The storm outside raged on, thunder clashing with the anguished cries of the damned. The eternal spirit's sign, now tainted with a malevolent glow, flickered to life once more, casting an eerie illumination upon the cursed tavern. The bartender, trapped between the worlds of the living and the damned, carried out his cursed duties. And as the clock struck midnight, a haunting melody echoed through the tavern, the devil's laughter interwoven with the mournful cries of the lost souls, a symphony of eternal torment that would persist until the end of time. The cursed tavern stood as a dark monument, a nexus between the mortal realm and the infernal domain. The bartender, now a spectral puppet, moved through the ethereal mist, serving drinks to the tormented souls that wandered in perpetual despair. Each sip seemed to echo with the regrets and sins of those who had long lost their way. As the bartender fulfilled his spectral duties, he couldn't escape the haunting memories of his former life. The devil's laughter lingered in his mind like a never-ending nightmare. He yearned for release, a glimmer of hope in the abyss of his eternal servitude. One fateful night, a lone wanderer entered the tavern. The figure, cloaked in shadows, seemed different from the others. The bartender, compelled by a glimmer of curiosity, approached the newcomer cautiously. The stranger revealed a face hidden beneath the hood, and the bartender's eyes widened in recognition. It was a face he had long forgotten, the face of his estranged son. The son's eyes held a mixture of sorrow and understanding, and he spoke with a voice that cut through the spectral fog. "Father, I have wandered lost for too long, but tonight I have found you." The bartender's ethereal heart ached with a mix of joy and regret. His son explained that he had sought out the cursed tavern, guided by a mysterious force, to free his father from the devil's grip. In a desperate bid for redemption, the bartender and his son confronted the devil. The infernal creature, amused by their defiance, agreed to a wager. If the bartender and his son could find a glimmer of humanity within the damned souls of the tavern, the devil would release them from their eternal servitude. The father and son delved into the sea of lost souls, seeking to unearth the forgotten humanity buried beneath layers of regret. They listened to the tales of anguish, regret, and sorrow, and gradually the spectral fog began to thin. The devil, growing impatient, observed their quest with a wicked grin. But as the father and son worked together, a transformation occurred. The souls, touched by an unexpected flicker of compassion, began to find solace in each other's stories. In an act of defiance against the devil's grip, the bartender's son convinced the tortured spirits to forgive themselves and let go of their burdens. As the souls embraced the possibility of redemption, the spectral fog lifted and a warm light bathed the tavern. The devil, furious at the unexpected turn of events, unleashed a final, desperate roar. The cursed walls trembled, and the ethereal chains that bound the bartender shattered. With a burst of otherworldly energy, the devil vanished, leaving the tavern to return to its dilapidated but human state. The bartender and his son, now free from the infernal pact, stood in the center of the transformed tavern. The lost souls, having found a semblance of peace, faded away into the afterlife. The storm outside subsided, and the once cursed, eternal spirit's sign now flickered with a newfound warmth. As the father and son embraced, the tavern slowly returned to its former self, a relic of the past with a dark history, now overshadowed by a glimmer of redemption. The once haunting melody of eternal torment had been replaced by the echoes of forgiveness, and the bartender, no longer a spectral servant, could finally find rest as his soul reunited with the son he had thought lost forever.
Like, subscribe, and click on notifications that will allow you to stay up to date with the news and not miss videos from the channel, where there will be many more horror stories.